It's George from Triangulated back with another episode of Secular Trends. This week, we're going to be talking about psychedelic medicine, which, in all full disclosure, I don't know if it is a secular trend, but it is interesting enough that I decided to devote a week to it. I really learned about this trend. Uh, Back in high school, but no, I learned about this from an article in Columbia University's alumni magazine, and I've been considering writing and talking about it. But it was Trump's recent executive order that he signed with Joe Rogan in office, sitting in his office, that motivated me to focus more on it. So let's start with the Columbia article, the article from the Columbia University magazine that describes what psychedelic medicine is. So I will share that with you now. The little understood, highly promising, very illegal class of drugs known as psychedelics. These substances, which include psilocybin, a hallucinogenic compound found in more than 200 species of mushrooms, and LSD, derived from the ergot fungus, hopefully I pronounced that right, which infects grains such as rye, deeply alter perception and mood, and new clinical trials suggest that they may help a host of psychological conditions, including depression and generalized anxiety disorder, with only minor side effects and virtually no risk of addiction. So, excuse me. In a nutshell, the current research basically says that the well-known and illegal psychedelic drugs may be a beneficial solution when it comes to conditions like depression and anxiety. And there are a couple other interesting points from the article that I'll read now. So the first one says that SSRIs are the most commonly prescribed medications for depression and anxiety. These drugs prevent neurons in the brain from reabsorbing serotonin, a neurotransmitter that regulates mood. It can take weeks or months before patients start to feel better. With psychedelics, most studies have found improvement in just one or two treatments, and the effects can last for months. These are very rapidly acting drugs that have a major disruptive effect on brain activity. The guy speaking in the article went on, and I'll link to the article below, but he went on to say that in people with depression, there is often overactivity in parts of the brain that involve negative self-talk, so that they get stuck in a rut of despair, repeating bad thoughts like a broken record. Psychedelics seem to scramble those neuronal connections and help people to skip over the grooves and move into new ways of thinking. So it sounds like the clinical trials have found that these can be very effective. Of course, that needs to be tempered with the reality that psychedelics have sort of a checkered past. The CIA at one point used them to try to control the minds of Soviet spies. And we've probably all heard of people who took LSD, climbed a building, thought they could fly, and learned that they could not. So the article did talk about a documentary on Netflix that really goes into psychedelics, the history of psychedelics. So I'll link to that as well. I watched some of it. It was interesting. But as to why now, I'll share some of the points from the executive order, and I'll link to that as well. So lots of links this week. But here we go. So today, over 14 million American adults have a serious mental illness, a diagnosable mental, behavioral, or emotional disorder that substantially interferes with a person's life and ability to function. 8 million of these are on prescription medication for their conditions. The FDA has granted breakthrough therapy designation to some psychedelic drugs that have shown preclinical or preliminary clinical evidence of substantial improvement over other current therapies. President Trump has long been committed to accelerating medical treatment development and to ensure Americans and our veterans struggling with complex, hard to treat, and even incurable diseases and mental illnesses are able to access the care they need. So it really sounds like this is just a growing problem: depression, anxiety, and the current solutions, the SSRIs, don't work as well as psychedelics potentially could. It's a little hard to think about what it's going to be like if there's a bunch of people running around on acid, but hey, we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. As far as beneficiary companies, I wrote up a few in my report. I'll link to that. I don't want to read through their descriptions of what they do, but one of the stocks in particular, Compass Pathways, ticker is CMPS, jumped up a lot on the announcement, and actually jumped a few days before the announcement, which is surprising, or maybe not in the modern environment. So anyway, that's the story for this week, and I'll end this one with a far out man, and see you next week. Thanks for listening.